Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are diving deep into the white paper for a project called Hex Infinity. And what's interesting here is that they're trying to build what they call a digital nation by basically throwing out the old playbook for how you launch a crypto project.
The whole premise of this thing really kicks off with a question that, let's be honest, anyone who's been in crypto for more than 5 minutes has asked. Why do so many of these projects just totally fail right out of the gate?
And according to their white paper, the answer is simple. And it's kind of the original sin of crypto. Projects do it all backward. They launch some speculative token, they pump up the hype, and then, only then, do they try to build a community around it. And Hex Infinity's argument is that this approach is just a recipe for disaster, leading straight to all that volatility and failure we see so often.
Okay, so let's get into how they're planning to fix this. Hex Infinity's entire strategy is built on flipping that model completely on its head. Their core argument? The community and a real economy, they have to come first.
So, you see it right here. Instead of the typical token, then hype, then maybe community model you see on the left, they're flipping it. Their model is community first, then create utility, and only then do you list the token. The whole goal is to have a real, dedicated user base with a functioning economy before that token ever even sniffs a public exchange.
Now, this whole community-first thing isn't just about the launch strategy. No, it's actually the foundation for their much, much bigger vision, something they're calling a digital nation.
So, okay, what in the world is a digital nation? Well, in their view, it's a community that's all bound together by a shared asset, the digital HEX token. And here's the kicker. The value of that token is decided internally by what the members think it's worth, not by some external market maker. The token literally becomes the connective tissue, as they call it, holding the whole nation together. And this right here, this is really the core belief that's driving this entire project. The white paper couldn't be clearer. It's not the code, it's not the tech that's the most valuable thing. It's the active, engaged community. That is the real product. So how does this digital nation actually function and, create value? The white paper lays out this idea of a self-sustaining economy that's powered by what it calls 5 distinct income engines.
All right, let's just quickly break these down. First, you've got the mining engine. That's basically the front door, how you get tokens in the first place. Then there's play to earn, which, adds that gamified finance element. Trading and prediction. That creates an internal marketplace. Network rewards are pretty straightforward. They're incentives to grow the community. And finally, the rank pool sharing, which is kind of like a global dividend for the leaders. The whole idea is that these 5 things are supposed to work together, feeding into each other to create a completely circular economy.
Of course, an economy needs a currency, right? Well, the Hex token has a fixed hard cap of 50 million. And the white paper really hammers home this zero inflation policy. No new tokens can ever be minted, period. This makes it a deflationary asset by its very design, which means its scarcity is basically guaranteed.
Now, a really key part of their plan for making this all sustainable comes from fees. When a user withdraws funds, that value doesn't just evaporate. Instead, a full 50% of the fees go right back into the liquidity pool, and another 10% gets paid out to community leaders through that rank pool. It's a system that's literally designed to keep reinforcing itself. You can't build a nation from scratch without citizens, right? So how do you get people to join? And just as importantly, bring others in? Well, Hex Infinity's answer lies in a very, very specific network and reward structure. Okay, so the core of this structure is something they call the Hex cell. On the surface, it's a simple 1x2x4 matrix. But here's the really interesting part, the key. For you to succeed, the system is designed so you're actually mathematically forced to help the 2 people directly under you also succeed. It's not just a nice idea. The white paper calls this a binding effect, and the goal is to shift the focus from just recruiting people to actually fostering real teamwork. And that teamwork gets rewarded in real time with USDT. The white paper details 4 main ways you get compensated. A direct bonus for bringing someone new in, a cycle bonus when you fill out your Hex cell, a matching bonus that's based on your team's earnings, and of course, that global rank pool for the top leaders in the community. And get this, to show just how serious they are about fueling that growth, the direct referral bonus is 50%. Yeah, 50%. Let that sink in for a second. That means if you bring in a new member, you get half the value of their entry package right away. That is an incredibly aggressive incentive to get people to grow the network. Okay, so after all this community building and internal economics, what about a public listing on an exchange? This is really the final piece of their puzzle. And you guessed it, their approach is completely different from what you normally see in crypto. So they call it a volume-weighted listing protocol. Here's how it works. Phase 1 is completely internal. It's the accumulation phase, where early believers can get their hands on tokens. Then, phase 2 is all about hitting critical mass. They're not even thinking about a public listing until they hit some serious metrics, like over 100,000 holders and 1 million in daily volume. Only after that do they move to phase 3, listing on a global exchange. And they make a huge point in the white paper that this isn't a fundraiser for the developers, it's a liquidity event for the community. And their 2026 roadmap lays this entire sequence out pretty clearly. Q1 is the platform launch and getting the mining going. Q2 is the full rollout of the play-to-earn modules. Q3 is all about scaling and building up liquidity. And only in Q4, after a full year of building everything internally, do they plan to hand over governance to a DAO and finally go after that global listing. At the end of the day, I think the project's own slogan from their white paper kind of says it all. One community, one token, Hex Infinity. It's all about building one community, focused on one token, creating this one shared destiny for everyone who's involved. And that really leaves us with a big question, right? Is this a truly new model for creating shared wealth in a decentralized way? Or is it a really fascinating social experiment built on a structure that might feel a little familiar to some? In the end, I think the success or failure of this digital nation is going to come down to just one thing: whether or not that community actually becomes the ultimate asset they claim it is.